Pam Bondi walked into the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee that day expecting to defend her 2026 DOJ budget. But instead of a routine hearing, she found herself cornered, faced with some of the most politically charged and potentially damaging questions of her career. Senators pressed her on allegations that could shake the foundations of public trust: Trump's alleged crypto bribery dinners, foreign governments possibly buying influence in U.S. policy, masked law enforcement officers abducting people, and American-made weapons flooding into the hands of Mexican cartels.
Oh, Senator Peters. Senator Peters is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, good to have you here. Welcome to the committee. General Bondi, leadership at DHS has claimed that ICE and others who are carrying out immigration enforcement activities and support are covering their faces to protect themselves from being doxxed. And certainly I fully understand those concerns and I appreciate those concerns, and I think they're real concerns. But I'm deeply concerned that the lack of identification during these activities is dangerous, both to the public as well as to the officers themselves. The public risk being harmed by individuals pretending to be immigration enforcement, which has already happened. We've seen that happen. And these officers also risk being injured by individuals who think they're basically being kidnapped or attacked by some unknown assailant. So my question for you, Attorney General Bondi, is given the number of DOJ employees currently conducting immigration enforcement activities in support of DHS, how are you going to ensure that the safety of the public and the officers, if they continue to not follow required protocol to identify themselves as law enforcement?
And Senator Peters, that's the first time that issue has come to me about them you're saying that law enforcement officers, when they cover their faces.
Right.
I do know they are being doxxed, as you said. They're being threatened. Their families are being threatened. You know,
Again, I get that, but they have to identify themselves. There is an insignia oftentimes. They have to identify themselves as law enforcement. People think, here's a person coming up to me, not identified, covering themselves. They're kidnapping. They'll probably fight back. That endangers the officer as well. And that's a serious situation. People need to know that they're dealing with a federal law enforcement official.
Senator, I would be happy to look at that issue with you and talk to all of our partner law enforcement agencies. But I can assure you that if they're covering their faces now, it's to protect themselves. But they also want to protect all citizens. And that's something we can work together on to ensure the safety of everyone and their families.
Yeah. And it's protecting themselves, too, if they identify themselves. It's not just the person, because someone's going to fight back if you just think a strange person with their face covered is throwing you into a van. Most people will resist that.
It sounds like you have a specific case, and I would
be
happy to talk to you about that at a later time, because I'm not aware of that happening. But I'd be happy to talk to you about that.
We'd be happy to do it. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Earlier this month, the administration announced it was launching an effort to ramp up immigration apprehensions by shifting more than 5,000 personnel from across federal law enforcement, including approximately 2,000 from within the Justice Department, away from their typical duties to focus on immigration-related cases, including targeting individuals whose status had been terminated by this administration. This effort is on top of previous directives for department officials to focus on immigration enforcement. Many of these officials impacted by these directives, unsurprisingly, say they're being forced to turn their attention away from other national security missions, including counterterrorism and cyber security. There has been public reporting that hundreds of FBI agents have been reassigned to immigration-related duties, and raising real concerns among agents themselves that the shift could hinder investigations into terror threats and espionage by China and Russia. And we have also heard concerns about resources being reoriented at the state and local level. Attorney General Bondi, I know the Justice Department officials have said that this president can walk and chew gum at the same time, and that you continue to hold all criminals accountable regardless of immigration status. But numerous reports on the ground from career government officials and some basic common sense would beg to differ. Given the attacks on Iran over the weekend, this issue has become even more salient, with threats from terrorists inspired by Iran, cyber attacks, often by Iran itself, or additional efforts by that regime to go after government leaders. So my question is, how are you ensuring that there are enough resources focused on the full range of national security threats, and there's no shortage of those, when so many of our DOJ resources are being reallocated to immigration enforcement?
I talked to Director Patel or Deputy Director Bongino 7 days a week. I speak to my National Security Division. We meet every single day. Emil Bovey, who's currently with us, is doing an incredible job in the national security space as well, helping us. We are doing everything. We are using our resources on all fronts. And when you say immigration, immigration is going hand in hand with the people who have come into our country through our borders. I think just over 1,500 illegal aliens from Iran are here. Chinese individuals, Russian individuals, people from every country. That goes hand in hand with immigration, identifying them, finding them, and getting them out of our country. Will national security be compromised? Not at all, Senator. It will be increased. It will be enhanced. I can tell you, every day we talk about this, multiple times a day, 7 days a week, as to what we can do, working hand in hand with DEA, ATF agents, FBI, Homeland Security, ICE, to make sure that our nation is safe. And FBI, they have a 24/7 center set up now. And actually, we've set some up around the country. And you're welcome to actually come see one if you would like anytime. I would love to have you come in and see what we do. But we have that set up around our country on a national security level to be sure Americans are safe and do everything we can to get terrorists who are in our country out of our country.
Well, certainly, I don't disagree with any of that. There do obviously criminal elements that are there need to be taken care of, but you're also looking at cybersecurity, which is different. You're looking at counterterrorism issues that are different. And I don't believe that we were over-resourced in those areas. You may beg to differ. So they were not over-resourced. We were making sure that they had the resources to deal with the other threats. But now those people are being pulled off of those jobs for another job. I just want to make sure that we're still doing things necessary to protect us from cyber threats, counterterrorism, and the long list of other threats that we face every day.
Thank you for those questions, and I know your background, and that's why it's so important to all of us. And yes, we are. And cybersecurity, I could go on for 2 hours about cybersecurity and what's happening. Not only that, the online child predators online, but the foreign terrorist threats through cybersecurity that we can talk about in a different setting. I'd be happy to discuss all of that with you and our efforts, not only made within our country, but with our partners worldwide.
Well, I'll look forward to having that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Senator.
Thank you.
What followed wasn't the calm, composed defense of policy that you'd expect from the nation's top law enforcement officer. It was a series of evasions, deflections, and rhetorical smokescreens. The first bombshell came when a senator asked about Trump's now infamous MeCoin dinner, an exclusive event for the 220 biggest purchasers of his personal cryptocurrency. Reports claimed that some attendees were foreign nationals who weren't just there for the food, they were there to buy political influence. One particularly striking example came from the head of Freight Technology Inc., who allegedly stated outright that he bought $2 million in coins and planned to buy $20 million more to sway freight policy between Mexico and the U.S. This wasn't just speculation, it was a direct claim of purchasing political favors. Bondi's response: she didn't address the claim at all. Instead, she shifted abruptly to a story about capturing a Sinaloa cartel leader in Oregon, as though that somehow neutralized the concern about foreign interference in U.S. policy. From there, the questioning turned to an even more troubling sequence involving a second cryptocurrency, USD1, a stablecoin linked to Trump. Senators laid out a timeline. The UAE requested access to U.S.-made AI chips, which were previously banned from export due to national security concerns. Shortly afterward, MGX, a company led by the UAE's national security advisor, bought $2 billion worth of Trump's coins. Not long after that, Trump traveled to the Middle East and announced those very chips would be sent to the UAE. To anyone paying attention, the implication was obvious. Yet when asked if this raised concerns about foreign influence, Bondi again dodged the question, reverting to talking points about Honduran fentanyl traffickers and meth seizures in Oregon. The specific question whether U.S. policy had been sold to a foreign power remained unanswered. If the crypto controversies weren't troubling enough, the hearing then moved to a disturbing public safety issue: masked unmarked individuals seizing people off the streets without identifying themselves as law enforcement. Senator Peters pressed Bondi on the danger this posed, not just to the public, but to the officers themselves. Criminals posing as ICE agents have already exploited this lack of identification to kidnap and rob civilians. In one case, a man in Philadelphia handcuffed and robbed a woman while pretending to be an ICE agent. Bondi's reaction: she claimed she wasn't aware of such incidents and insisted that masks were simply to protect officers from being doxxed. She offered vague assurances about working together to address the issue, but showed no urgency in confronting the clear risk this policy creates. Public trust depends on transparency, on knowing that the person detaining you is a legitimate officer, not secrecy that invites abuse. Then came the question that should have been straightforward: what is the DOJ doing to stop American weapons from arming gangs in Mexico? The senator asking the question pointed out that many of these gangs have essentially become militarized thanks to U.S.-made guns and technology. Bondi responded by claiming a 33% increase in firearm seizures under Trump and declaring the borders closed. She praised the work of law enforcement and recited numbers: 14,600 guns seized, major cartel groups like MS-13 and the Sinaloa cartel targeted, but she didn't address the core of the question. Seizing guns in the U.S. is not the same as preventing them from being trafficked across the border in the first place. The hard truth is that according to independent studies, around 74% of the weapons used by cartels come from the United States. Mexican officials have tried to hold U.S. gun manufacturers accountable, filing a $10 billion lawsuit to force better oversight of gun sales, but the case was dismissed. That pipeline remains wide open, no matter how many times Bondi says the borders are sealed. What was most striking throughout the hearing wasn't just that Bondi avoided answering these questions, it was the way she avoided them. Whether confronted about crypto deals that looked like pay-to-play schemes, foreign governments allegedly buying influence, masked officers undermining public trust, or U.S. weapons arming cartels, her pattern was the same. She pivoted to unrelated crime statistics, invoked the dangers of fentanyl and cartel violence, and accused questioners of playing political games. These are classic deflection tactics, but in the context of national security, they're more than evasive, they're dangerous. The stakes here go beyond one Senate hearing. If the allegations about Trump's cryptocurrencies are true, then foreign powers may have directly purchased favorable U.S. policies. That's not just unethical, it's a threat to the very principle that American policy should serve American interests, not the highest bidder. If masked and unidentified officers are detaining people without clear identification, then we risk turning our streets into places of fear and mistrust, opening the door for criminal impersonators to prey on communities. And if American weapons continue to pour into Mexico, fueling cartel violence, then we are not just observers in that violence, we are enablers. This hearing was an opportunity for Bondi as Attorney General to show that she takes these issues seriously, that she is committed to transparency, and that she understands the gravity of the threats facing the country. Instead, what the public saw was a performance, one in which the art of avoiding the question seemed to take precedence over the duty to answer it. The senators pressing her weren't asking for political theater, they were asking for accountability, and what they got was a wall of spin. So where does that leave us? The allegations about Trump's cryptocurrencies deserve thorough investigation. The policy of allowing masked unmarked officers to operate needs to be revisited immediately to prevent abuse. And the flow of American guns into Mexico must be addressed at its root, not just through after-the-fact seizures. These aren't partisan issues, they're matters of national security, public safety, and democratic integrity. If our top law enforcement officer won't provide straight answers to these questions, then it's up to the public to demand them. Because the longer these issues remain unresolved, the more we risk normalizing a political environment where corruption is ignored, foreign influence is tolerated, and public safety takes a back seat to protecting powerful interests. If you want the truth they don't want you to hear, stay with us, subscribe, and drop a blue heart in the comments so I know you're standing with us.